Yeah, but it's been extremely cold here in Wisconsin lately. Today was when I woke up to go to work was a -11 with a real feel of -25.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. I mean, yeah. I think when I got to work, real feel was hovering around like -13, and it never got much better than like -8, -10 maybe all day. I mean, it's been brutal.
The only good thing it's got going for us is that it's making ice.
Yeah.
Only thing going for us.
But I feel like it happens at least once every year. Like, you'll have either at the end of January or the beginning of February, it seems like you'll have 1 week where the wind chill just doesn't get above like -20 or -10, or like it just stays brutally cold for like a week, and it just happens every year. Because like this year it was like seasonably warm.
Yeah.
For the majority, I mean, pretty much all through December, all through January. We had a couple days in there that got fairly cold, but
Just because
for the most part, it was not much to complain about. It was pretty warm, but now, just this past couple days and over the next couple days, we're going to be in like this 5 to 7 day period where it's going to be absolutely brutal.
Which it sounds like we're complaining because we are, but it's great for the ice, which we needed.
Yeah.
Because the ice wasn't looking too hot.
No.
Until this week started, so.
And that's another thing that happens is people start to talking and, they're like, oh, we're just not going to have the ice this year. It's just not going to happen. And this will be like a month before the season. If we haven't gotten that cold spell yet, there's a good chance it's going to come. But, so my family does quite a bit of ice fishing. You guys don't really do that very much.
I don't step foot on the ice till spearing.
But, yeah, sturgeon spearing is like the main thing that's coming up, and that's a pretty big deal. I mean, it's a big deal for a lot of people around here. It's like opening day of gun season.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It's definitely a really big thing around here, so you got to have the ice for that because you're not doing it out of an ice fishing shanty. I mean,
pop up at least.
Yeah, like you could have pretty minimal ice and still get out ice fishing.
It's more so the trucks.
It's more so the trucks
taking that out, and it's just more convenient if you have a truck.
Yeah,
you don't have to take a wheeler out there and freeze and haul all your gear out there, and you're most likely not going out very far if there's not a lot of ice. And
right,
if you just got a solid 18 inches, everything's good.
And if you don't live close, then you have to haul your four-wheeler there and haul your shack there, and then hook your shack up to your four-wheeler and drag it out there, and it's just.
Well, even us, we're like 5 minutes away, maybe a little more. It's just a pain for us if we'd have to take a shack out there, come back, get a wheeler, and then everybody's got to do that. So you got to make multiple trips, and it's just.
And then the group that I spear with, that's got all kinds of shacks. I mean, Gabby's family has like 4 shacks just by themselves, so that's all the trips out there, and it's definitely a lot. I think we'll probably have 12 to 14 in most spots, which is enough to get a truck out there. I think the rule of thumb is usually about 12. I mean, obviously people say the ice is never going to be 100% safe, and that's true, especially on Lake Winnebago. But
yeah, I think it'll be more than that when the season starts.
You think so?
I think there's a pretty good base out there now, and especially with this week, we haven't had a ton of snow, so that helps too.
I've been seeing most of the reports are saying like you'll get one spot. Because there's a lot of clubs around the lake that'll go out and check
every day,
see ice thickness and everything. And I feel like the lowest you'll see right now is 8 or 9 inches, and the majority of them are in that like 10 or 11 range. So I don't know how fast they're going to be making ice this week with it being so cold. I'm assuming it's going to be making quite a bit of ice, but we also got that snow.
We talk about like making ice. Oh, it's making ice, but how much does it actually make?
There's people out there that have like calculations for it, like it'll be like a thing that you can plug in a certain temperature and conditions and whatever in it, and like try to calculate what it's going to be. But I mean
enough to drive.
It should be plenty fine. I'm not too worried about it. It's more about if it's going to end up getting too warm and then things start cracking, because it's going to warm up.
Which is funny, though, because, like, it seems like every year at the end of the year, it's, like, always the last weekend you're driving off with water.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even phase us then, but it's like if that's like that opening, everyone's freaking out.
Yeah.
But after the first weekend, it's like, A couple inches of water on the ice. Let's go out.
Right. We've
done that multiple times
yeah.
where you pull off and there's just water. You're just driving through water and you sprays everywhere. It's like doesn't phase us the third weekend, but the first weekend's like, oh no.
Or like last year, you got a bunch of snow on the ice, but only in some spots, and then you spear a sturgeon, and then it's in the back of the truck, and you got to get it to the weigh station to get it registered an hour after the season, after it closes for the day, and then you get it stoved in a snowbank on the ice. And
there's at least two things wrong with that situation. One, you didn't listen to me. I did suggest leaving at noon to get there in case we did run into a snowbank, or you did. And the second thing was your truck is just junk.
That's disrespectful. That is unacceptable.
The Dodge just, I mean,
don't disrespect the Dodge.
It was like 3 inches of snow and just
don't disrespect
buried
the Dodge.
it.
It was at least 3 feet.
No,
it was like, at least 36 inches. When I looked out my driver's window, I could see snow up to the window.
All I know is my truck, the GMC, 21 years old, had no. Just walked it right out. I think I had it in 2-wheel drive actually.
That's crap.
2-wheel drive reverse. Yeah. So, moral of the story is, if it's like a blizzard condition, just don't wait. Go in there as soon as possible to get it registered.
It was nasty that day. It was really, really bad. But then we had the season prior where you speared a fish, and then your dad speared a fish, and then Gabby speared a fish, like all back to back to back, just a couple hours apart in the same day. So here we are. We had just moved the shacks that morning. I spear one, and now we're thinking, okay, we might really be on him here.
No, I get what you mean, and that's just funny.
And I felt like we had an hour. We were going to be all right, and we
still
were fine. Yeah, we still were fine.
The landing was like, or the weigh-in station was like 10 minutes away.
Yeah, and we would have been totally fine leaving if I hadn't gotten it stuck. What actually happened was she was just a little bit too short. So like I think I was following you out, and you had like made a path through, and then I think I ended up going, and then maybe I took a little bit different route that wasn't like you hadn't already driven over, and then it was like hard snow too, so like you could walk it, and then like it drop you down on it. Right.
It was weird.
It was like it went up a little bit, and then like it got to the point where the front tires weren't actually on the ice anymore. They were just stuck up in the snow, and then people were coming behind us, and then
we knew the people that came, a couple of kids from school, and they're like, "Ooh."
Yeah.
That was funny.
But we got her dug out. You actually, I think, had to pull me out.
I did.
Did we use a ratchet strap?
No, I had a tow rope, like a snatch cord.
Yeah, and I think it took us a couple tries because, of course,
it was bad. It was just, of course, I'm spinning and
yeah. But it's like we talked about last week with Colby. It's just always got to be some because it makes a better story.
Mm-hmm.
If we would have just made it to the landing easy, it wouldn't be as good a story.
Too easy.
So yeah.
Even when we speared 2 years ago, when me, Dad, and Gabby speared them, there was water out on the ice that day. There was a lot of water, and I went to go pick up Gabby from the landing in the Jeep. I couldn't figure out how to roll the windows down because in a Jeep apparently it makes sense now. They're on the dash because you can take the doors off.
Right.
And rule of thumb on the lake is you're always supposed to roll your windows down in case you drop in, so then you don't have to break the window because of the pressure. It'd be extremely hard to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I can't find out how to roll the windows down. And then I finally do, and I get down and just hit a water bank, and it just engulfs the Jeep.
Yeah. So now that my truck is dead, R.I.P., the interesting thing is going to be seeing how my car does on the ice this year.
That thing is not going out there.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. I would never in a million years let it get out there. But I'll be hitching a ride with somebody, and we'll see. But anyways, the ice should be looking pretty good. I'm not too worried about it. I think we'll be out there. We'll be spearing. I don't know how much scouting we're going to be able to get in. I'm sure somebody will be out there doing something. Word will get around somehow or another.
I hope it's good ice. We just built a brand new shack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost. About 98% done.
Yeah.
If we had to spear in it, we could.
You could. It's been a long time coming, though. We started it like back in the summer.
July.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So it's been a while.
But we didn't work on it consistently. I mean, we had stuff going on.
Yeah.
Busy.
Just kind of chipping away.
Mm-hmm.
Just took up space.
I bet you we probably could have finished it in like a month if we really, really hit it hard. But
I think so. Yeah. So that'll be a video that's going to come out the Monday after this episode drops. And that should be, I think it's going to be a longer episode.
Yeah, I'm just finishing up the video, and it's like 30. It'll probably be around 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right around there. It's a little more in-depth build, kind of. I mean, this isn't like something you see all over the place how to build. And we're not saying that our way is right and all. I'm sure we did a lot of mistakes and different ways that other people would do it, but we're just going to show you like all what we did. That's why it's so long, is because we kind of show you almost every step for the most part. I mean, I'm sure there's things in there that we forgot, but
yeah, with stuff that you could figure out, like,
or you do it how you want to do that part.
Yeah, so that'll be good too. It's gonna be maybe a little bit late for this year. If you're looking at it, you're not gonna be able to whip a shack up before the season starts, but it's good stuff also, I think, to be thinking about. Like this year, if you're like, man, I don't know, this might be our last year in this shack, we want to build one next year to have a new one, it might be a good idea to watch this video so you can kind of start thinking about like what you might want to have in a new shack, and then as you're spearing this year, sit in that old one and kind of go, oh yeah, so they did this in their new shack, how would that look if we did that, and kind of help you visualize it a little bit this year.
Well, and that's what we did with ours. We were thinking about building one for like 2 years, pretty much. Well, mostly once I started working, then we could split it, because they're not, I mean, they aren't cheap, I'll tell you that. They're expensive, but it's comfortable when you have something reliable and super easy, which we'll show you. It's nice. You can do it all by yourself, like as it goes, unloading and loading it. But what was I gonna say?
I don't know, but I think that's another lesson too. Like I said, it's a little bit earlier, or it's a little bit early. You're not gonna be able to, or late, I guess I should say. You're not gonna be able to get a shack done in time for the season this year, but you shouldn't really wait until like November, December to get one ready for February next year. You might want to start it in the summer, especially, like, it all depends on what you do for work and when you're the busiest and whatever. But when fall rolls around, you're going to want to be hunting deer as much as possible.
At least for us, that's what kind of set us back. But that's what I was talking about. Like, we looked at a lot of the people, the groups we spear with, and we kind of took ideas from everybody and put it into one type thing. So
yeah. And another thing to consider too is like, if you're gonna be trying to film in spearing in there, like, there's different things or whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? Because it's a difference whether you have like a built-in bench for people to sit on, or if you want to have your own chairs in there. Do you want the storage that bench is going to provide, but then it's like, it's there, you can't move it. Whereas the chairs, if you don't want them there for some reason, you want to have more standing room for people or something, you can move it. So it's like things to think about there. Some people actually hang cabinetry in theirs. That's an option. What do you want your heater to look like? Where do you want your electricity to be going? Where do you need outlets? Are you going to have a radio that's like up high, like at head height in the shack?
Or if you're going to use it for other things, like if you ice fish.
Right.
Because you can add a lot more things for that too.
Right.
So.
That's something too. I've been trying to convince my family to, look at either building a shack or buying one like that, because if the ice conditions are right and you can drive a truck out there, you can take a shack out ice fishing, and that's a total game changer. Because you can't, so if you're ice fishing, you still can't drill or like chainsaw in a hole like you would for sturgeon spearing. You still have to just do it with augers. But if it's a bow frame shanty, you can still like get it pretty close to the ice, pop in a couple of holes to be able to jig out of. You can have windows in it that then you could see tip-ups on the outside. And for sturgeon spearing, you want it to be as dark as possible in there. So you could, there's a lot of different options for how you could create some sort of an insert to make it really dark when you're sturgeon spearing, and then have windows open when you're ice fishing.
Yep.
And, talking about heat and electricity and all that stuff, you can plug your phone in. You can, we'll have...
We went a little extra, but that's just...
But it's not...
More so for filming and stuff like that.
Right.
It's nice to have to.
Right.
Charge your phone, you can run the radio and all that off there. So
yeah. And if you're already going to be running some electricity, it's like it's not going to cost you that much extra to run a couple more outlets or
no. And it's actually pretty simple, at least the way we did it, and hopefully it'll work this year. But the one thing I will say, if you're gonna build a shack and you're gonna order a frame, a bow frame, but I guess the bow frame is just the company we bought it from. There's other.
Right.
They're the same frame, just different companies, but
that's like the style too.
Yeah,
like that's
you got to get it kind of sooner than later. Like put your order in around summer because they don't just pop those out like really quick. So that's what we did. At least we put it in like I want to say like May maybe.
Yeah.
June, like right around there. It takes a little bit. So
I think that's the other thing. Like the timing of this episode might seem a little bit weird. Like it's sturgeon spring season, but it's not like you can whip a shack up now before the season starts, but don't think you can just put it off and wait. Like you kind of got to get the ball rolling even once the season's over. If you put that order in for the new frame in March and then maybe you get it by April and then you kind of have the spring and summer to get it done. And then when fall rolls around and you want to be spending every free weekend that you have possible to be in the woods, then you don't have to worry about getting the shack done and all that stuff. So as far as timing of the episode goes, I don't think it's too bad because it's something you want to start thinking about as soon as possible. It's not something you want to wait because it is a pretty big undertaking to try and build something like that. Like do it right.
Yeah, even right now we're basically done, and there's still things like, oh, we still need to get this. Just like little things like you don't even realize. Like, oh, we do need that. We need this. We need that, and then before you know it, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff. So that's just start thinking of it sooner than later if you're going to build one.
Yeah, so I think that'll be a good thing. Get that out on Monday. You can watch that. It'll be good to kind of get excited for sturgeon spearing that's coming up and look at, getting some ideas so that when you're sitting this year, you can think about some of those ideas and how it might play out and what you might want. And then probably not long after the season is over, if you're going to build one for next year, I would think about starting that as soon as possible. But also, if you're just looking to build more of like a ice castle type of thing for just ice fishing, you could follow pretty much the same process that we're going to lay out, modify it a little bit if you want, something to be a little bit different here and there, but you could pretty much follow just the same process and use it as an ice fishing shanty,
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be good. That's going to be right around the corner.
Speaking of, since it's only it's a 16-day season at max, what are you supposed to do with the rest of your free time in the winter when there's nothing else to do and deer season's over?
Yeah, I mean, we find ourselves asking that every year. It's like deer
cold.
Season's over, it's cold, you're sitting around.
It gets dark at 4, light at 7.
Yeah, you want to be out there, but then you think about how cold it's going to be. What can you do? It's tough to get through those winter months. It's where we find ourselves taking in more outdoor content, I think, too, like kind of listening to more podcasts, watching more videos on YouTube, doing some of that stuff. But there are ways that you can get outside and have fun and participate in not only being outdoors, but also there's still hunting seasons going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we tend to do pretty much as soon as deer season is over. We kind of make a transition into small game, so we're shooting squirrels, rabbits, and it doesn't sound like that's maybe the most exciting thing. It doesn't necessarily get my heart beating like deer hunting does, but it can be pretty fun. It can be pretty action packed.
I'd say it's a nice relief because one, you don't have to be you're not sitting and you're just not quiet the whole time. You can walk around with friends and talk normal, have a good time. You know what I mean? It's not like you have to be quiet, you have to sit still, you have to do all this. Like you're going out in search of these animals. So
right. So it can be more
of
a
different hunting style.
It's like more of a social hunt, right?
Yes.
Like you can still talk while you're out there, like you said, and you're moving around. So there's, it could be 30, 40 degrees when you're sitting in a deer stand, and that might actually end up being colder than if it's 10 degrees and you're rabbit hunting, but you're just trudging through the snow, going up and down in elevation. You got a pack that you're wearing that's hopefully got a rabbit or two in the back of it.
Yep.
Carrying a gun with you. Like when we went a couple weeks ago, just sweating bullets.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was 20 degrees.
Yeah.
Not very much wind, but we were soaked because it was just drenched in sweat from how much we had a lot of clothes on to start because it was cold, but yeah, like you get way more cold just sitting in a stand because you're not moving or doing anything like that.
Right. So it can be a good time, especially if you have or you can find a decent recipe to try and fry them up and make a little meal out of it. It's some people can do that, and some people really like that sort of thing. So that's not always a bad situation either. It's not going to fill up your freezer like if you shoot a deer or something.
Yeah,
but
it's just nice to go and shoot. I like shooting the gun. I mean, I was hunting the rabbits this weekend. I bet you I shot over 30 times.
Yeah.
I went way through a box. Like I was running out of shells in my vest. I was like, oh boy, this is not good.
Yeah. And we found out with rabbit hunting, and then even with squirrel hunting too. So in our last video where we did that rabbit and squirrel hunting, you took a 12 gauge and I took a 22, and we found out that they were like pretty complementary. Like it worked out pretty good to have one of each.
I think if I'm going to specifically go out for squirrels, I'm taking a 22 from now on because last 2 Sundays ago, Dad and I went out and I shot like 3 within a couple minutes with the 22. You just have more range, and if you have a good one that's dead on, it's a pretty game changer. So
yeah.
I think that's more of a fun, like you go out with some 22s and sit for a little bit and shoot with those rabbits. It's nice to have a 22 if they get out there, but the shotguns are where it's at for me with rabbits.
And if you were going to go in a group, like if you had 3 or 4 guys rabbit hunting, it'd be nice for one of them to have a 22.
Yeah.
Because then when you have that where there's one that just squirts out in just the right spot, and then you can, you take a couple shots at it, nothing, and then it gets out 40, 50 yards, but you can still see it. That's when you can take the 22 and pop it from there.
That's funny because this last weekend there was one rabbit for sure that I shot at 60 yards, and I hit him, and it actually stopped him. He was pretty wounded, but he just kept getting farther and farther away, and he wasn't going down. And poof. My 5th shot, I finally got him. So
yeah,
but yeah, the 22 is where it's at if you can get him to stop, or if you have fresh snow. And you can track, like what we did this weekend. There was fresh snow the night before, so that's super beneficial. They run out, and you don't get them. You just follow their track for the most part, unless they go on a brush pile and bury themselves. It's kind of hard, but
right. But it's nice having options. One weekend you could take a 12 gauge, and next weekend you could take a 22, and just kind of mix it up, get some different hunting in, which is always nice to kind of break up some of that boredom. And yeah, with that squirrel hunting, we've never really like dedicated much time to it. It was always more like if you saw one while we were rabbit hunting, maybe we would go after one, but we had a ton of fun just planking squirrels out of the trees. Cause
I think we should do it again one of these days because it's closer than our other properties, and it's just nice. If we get a sunny day out there and go, maybe like if we spear sturgeon, or if the season closes early, or even after one day we go out there and just shoot a couple, I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, so the sunny days typically help, right?
At least that was my theory, but we've kind of proved it wrong. The last 2 times we went, it's been cloudy, but if it's windy, that's where I really don't usually see a ton of them. Like super windy for that. Like, is that bad?
Yeah, like when the conditions are bad, it seems like they kind of hunker down.
Yeah.
You can't really get them to move, especially like rabbits, so they're going to be more on the ground level in thick brush. If you walk right up on them and step on them, they're obviously going to
They almost have to, yeah.
But squirrels, if they're just in like a hole in a tree, you don't get them out.
Yeah, you kind of got to wait for them to see them and then go. Like rabbits, right. you go look for them, but squirrels, you wait.
So if the weather's bad and the squirrels aren't out, there's no way for you to like get them to come out. But yeah, if the weather's decent and you got some sunshine and the wind's not too bad and they're just out running around,
it's a fun time.
Be a good time.
Yeah, if you got a ton of them, like that one day we were out there, and I can't imagine what it's like when it's sunny, but you can have a lot of fun, shoot a lot, miss a lot.
Yeah. Although I think we had a pretty good track record that day.
Yeah, we were doing pretty good.
It's nice because when you're sitting there during deer season, I feel like there's always some sits where you're sitting there and you're not seeing any deer, but there's just squirrels galore, and you're like, man, I should have brought the BB gun, or I should have brought the 22, or
which is so annoying because you go out there during the season, at least I have, like squirrel season after deer hunting, and you can never ever shoot them. I don't know what why. I have no idea why.
I don't know what it is.
So one day during bow season is like October, like the lull. I brought the 22 with, and I was just plinking squirrels all day long.
Yeah,
I didn't see a deer, but
no, well,
yeah.
you know,
yeah, they don't really like that.
Gotta pass the time somehow.
But I think this is new this year that squirrel season's open later.
Yeah, I don't know
I'm pretty sure it used to close at the end of January, which would be today.
I think so.
But I'm pretty sure they reopened it, or they opened it to like February 28th. Like the end of like when rabbit season goes.
That sounds right.
Don't quote me on that, but
right.
I think. Yeah, I'll just look it up.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously have to make sure on that, but I think that's kind of coming back to me now, that because I think you're right. It used to close on the 31st, but maybe there was something to that this year, that it's going to go a little bit longer, which would be nice, because even once you get through, I mean, and so we're obviously talking about sturgeon spearing. That's a very limited amount of people who really participate in that. Like, there's plenty of people out there who might like get done with deer season and it's like, that's it. And if you're somebody like you who doesn't ice fish and you don't sturgeon spear, you've got like nothing to do until turkey hunting comes around. And so you got to find something, and being able to shoot squirrels and rabbits like that is nice. What do you got?
Well, I was right. It is open till the 28th of February.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you're in Milwaukee County, you can hunt rabbits year-round.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Damn, take a look. Open until the 28th.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's all right.
So that must be new, because I know it always used to end in January.
Yeah.
But it's nice that it's open later, because it's usually nicer out. Nicer weather, you can shoot more squirrels.
I guess we're road tripping down to Milwaukee and go plink some rabbits.
Yeah, we could.
get bored in March, and all right, we're doing it.
I'm kind of confused on that, but maybe they're just a nuisance.
That's weird. I don't know
why that is.
Yeah, because how much
hunting
like
land even is there in
Milwaukee? I mean, there's definitely some. I work down there every day, and there's definitely some, but you wouldn't think there's enough that it's overpopulating things, especially with how big.
Maybe they're just trying to get rid of them.
City, yeah, but I mean, what damage are they causing? I don't.
Nothing.
Rabbits wouldn't even go into the city.
No, I have no idea why that is, but
squirrels might. But even then, they probably. I mean, they got to go where the food is.
If anything, it'd be deer running out in front of people on highways,
which happens a lot,
especially down there. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know why that is, but I guess it's an option. And another thing that a lot of people like to do this time of year that can be really beneficial is coyote hunting. Problem is, we don't know anything about it. I don't want to say we suck at it, because we haven't really tried that hard.
It's kind of an investment.
That's the thing.
If you want to be like,
yeah, I was
pretty good at it.
I was talking to a guy at work, and he's telling me like him and his buddy go out and they do like some coyote hunting tournaments and whatever, and they're like, yeah, it's just so much
tournaments for that.
Yeah, tournaments for that.
I believe it. There's tournaments for everything.
Yeah, I mean, people find a way to pass the time and have fun doing it, and like shooting coyotes can be a really beneficial thing. So I'm definitely on board with it. But he's talking about like, oh, it's so much better to hunt them at night than it is during the day.
I believe it.
And I believe it too. But then you got to buy like
$3,000 thermal.
Yeah. He's talking about like he bought a cheap one that was like $1,200 or $1,500, and then they went out and didn't even shoot anything for the tournament. Ooh. I was like, I just bought a gun that was in that type of price range. And now going double that investment to go and shoot coyotes? I don't know, man.
It'd be fun if you had enough time to do it. Like, if we lived, well, I shouldn't say that, but like we live close enough to where we could go out at night and do it. But it's like, it's cold.
Yeah.
Not to sound like sissies, because I mean, the cold doesn't bother us too much, but it's like, that's a lot to do, a lot of money to spend at least.
And he was also talking about hunting from like 9 p.m. till 7 a.m. And I was like, man, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I have that in me. I guess like on a Saturday night, but
yeah, but then you're gonna sleep all day.
All day on Sunday.
And then you're gonna wake up at like 5 o'clock for dinner, and you're not gonna be able to fall asleep.
Yep.
And you'll be up till 2.
Yep. It's one of those things. If you don't kill any, you're gonna be mad. If you do, it'll probably be pretty good.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then I was saying too, like, killing coyotes is great, but I don't want to touch the things. And once again, not to sound like sissies, but they are legitimately the most disease-ridden animal that's in the woods.
Well, they eat dead animals. So.
They're so disgusting. They're all disease-ridden. Like, you shouldn't even touch a coyote with your skin.
You know what, possums are like the cleanest?
They're like the cleanest.
Which makes no sense because they're the ugliest.
They're so gross looking.
Yeah, they just look diseased.
They're horrible. That time that we had to kill one in that barn, I'm gonna save that story for a different episode, but they're so disgusting.
I've never killed one, surprisingly.
I've
never killed that or a raccoon.
I don't think I've killed a raccoon. No, I don't think so. Well, the possum I killed was more of a murder. It wasn't like
you weren't set out to do it.
Yeah. No, this was like a cold-blooded murder. That
probably be questioned for that, but
I should serve time.
We'll just let that slide.
Yeah, 6 to 8 months I think would be fair for what I did. What we did, I should say. There was accomplices.
It's not just you.
There was accomplices, and it was my grandmother who ordered the hit.
Oh, jeez.
So I think she's got to go down for this one also.
It's not a good
when
situation.
the possum gets into the barn and starts messing with the barn cats.
No,
it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You can't have that.
Nope. Mm-mm.
That'll be a story for another episode. That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. It's not good for me. I mean, I'm gonna have night terrors thinking about it, but it is a good story. There was one I tried to kill. I don't remember necessarily what happened, but I remember walking out of the woods, like right at dark, and I was really mad about something. Either I came close to shooting a deer and didn't, or I just didn't see any deer. Something happened. I wasn't like super happy about it, and saw a possum, and he's just like waddling at me, whatever, down the trail, and I tried to shoot him, and I missed, and I think I found that arrow, and then then he like ran up a tree. And then I tried to shoot him out of there, and then I missed, and that arrow's gone.
Fling it up in the air.
Haven't found it. Well, it wasn't like in the air per se. It was just like at a tree, but it's nowhere to be found.
I've never shot at a raccoon or a possum. I don't think. I was gonna just annihilate a whole group of them opening day of bow season, but Terry was not having it. He said no.
That's crap.
I was really young, and I just wanted to shoot anything I saw. You're just coming down the trail right at me, and he just wasn't going to let me.
We were going to kill... There was that one raccoon that was out during the daytime when we were turkey hunting this past year. It was when we came up on that one that we thought was a Jake, but probably was a Tom that just had a frozen beard off. And we were like going after those.
Yeah.
And there was that coon that was out.
I totally forgot about
shoot
that.
him. We were like, no, we got to keep trying to go for those turkeys. I don't know if we could have even gotten close enough to him.
They're fast.
They're surprisingly fast. But he was out during the day. He couldn't have been well.
No, and we almost killed turkeys later on, so it was a good thing we didn't shoot.
Right.
But that just brings up a story. Like in the end of May, it was like the last season turkey hunting, and I walk up and there's a possum that comes out, and I'm walking down the fence line. He pops out like from me to you away. I have videos of it on my phone. He's just looking at me like he has no idea what I am. And I didn't shoot him because I was chasing after toms on the field. I later on missed 2 turkeys that day, which were the first ones I ever missed in my life. I missed 2 in one day. It was bad. I went through like 6 shells that day.
He cursed you.
I know.
That's what he did.
I should have just took him out.
I mean, they're ugly as sin. I don't know. But the thing is, they're very clean, and they also eat so many ticks,
which is
awesome. If there's one thing I hate more than possums, it's ticks.
Oh, I can't stand them things. I had one in my eye once, like in the eyeball. I woke up with it after it was in spring or then the summer, and we were out at the land. I don't know what we were doing. I was young, really young. They were like attracted to me when I was young. I woke up with it in my eye, and then I had one in my head once, like starting to bury.
Was it like burrowed?
No. I don't think so.
It was just like there, and you just like flicked it out.
My mom had to get it out or something because it was bad.
Oh God.
Yeah,
I had one in my butt. Well, it wasn't like in
your butt.
It wasn't like in it, but it was just like
on it.
It was burrowed into my butt cheek.
Okay, that's a little better.
And I was young, and I had no idea what it even was. I thought it was a spider or something. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be shooting webs. I'm Spider-Man now. Like this is how it happened. I wish he would have bit me in the arm or something, but I guess I'll take it. But come to find out it was a tick, and then that had to get dug out, and it was a whole
they're
thing.
They're no good at all whatsoever.
They're horrible. I hate them. I hate them more than anything. And the possums eat them, so they get a pass, right? Like the friend of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
Or
It's
the
confusing,
enemy.
yeah.
The enemy. How's it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But
And so the possum is the enemy of ticks. So therefore,
ticks
who are
your
my enemy, and so therefore I'm friends with the possum. I don't want to be, but I guess I am. So I have vowed now that I will only kill a possum in self-defense.
Yeah, I'm still gonna shoot him whenever I see him, but
What?
I never see him.
Why?
Oh, I just never see him. So what's the point? And
Don't shoot him then. When
I
you do
always
see one, don't shoot
I'm
it.
probably not gonna, because look at turkey season. I didn't even shoot him, so it doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying. Like if they're hard charging at you,
Which they
right?
won't. They
Which
play
they
dead.
won't.
They play dead.
Yeah.
I did find a dead one. My dad's like, careful, I might be playing
Yeah,
dead.
he might be.
I was like, oh, his stomach is sunk into him. I don't think he's playing dead.
He's half decayed.
Yeah.
His skull is showing. He's like, he's just a really good actor. I don't know. He's been at it a while. This is the Brad Pitt of possums here. No, I don't know. I'm not gonna. I mean, the one that we killed in the barn, that was questionable as to whether or not that was self-defense. I mean, that could have gone to trial, and I think it would have gone my way. He was, he was not happy, and he was ready to charge. So I think that one was justified. But yeah, if they're just out and about in the woods, I'll just
let them be.
Just let them be.
They're doing good.
Yeah, let them do their thing. I mean, I haven't seen one ever eat a tick. So I don't
think you would, but
well, I'm saying, like, if I'm up in my tree stand, all of a sudden a possum pops out, and I'm watching him waddle around the ground. And I'm like, okay, should I shoot him or should I not? I never see him eat a tick.
But can you even see the tick? That's the thing.
But I never like see him stop and like grab something, pick it up, and then like eat it.
You're not grabbing a tick the size of a baseball.
Well, no,
they're tiny. They probably just walk around and get them with their tongue like they're walking
like a lizard.
Yeah, like
that would make sense, I guess. But I'm just suspicious of possums. Is all I'm saying. It seems like if they didn't want to be killed, that'd be a good lie to come up with. Like, oh, we'll just kill a bunch of ticks, and then we just kind of let them go.
How about even better? They just play dead if they don't want to get killed. You can't get any more.
Yeah, but have you ever seen one play dead?
I have not.
That's what I'm saying.
I think
the one that was playing dead was really dead.
I think you got to scare them.
Shooting at them doesn't do that?
Well, I don't know. I might have to try it. See, now you want me. Now I want to shoot one next time I see one. So I'm going to. But.
I guess. I don't know. I'm not.
Thankfully, they are not out right now. So that's another plus to going small game hunting.
Yeah, I haven't seen one in a while.
Well, they don't come out when it's this cold.
Well, they got to be living somewhere.
Well, they hibernate, I think. They just like burrow in and chill out for the winter. No,
really?
They are not out. I doubt it. They would die. They're like this big. The mosquitoes, they're all dead. You know what I mean? Like they can't survive.
No, I'm talking about possums.
Oh, possums? I'm talking about ticks.
Oh.
No, possums, they're alive.
Yeah,
they don't
what do
hibernate.
they do?
I think they go in trees, though. I think they do find like holes in trees.
I thought you were saying that possums hibernate. I was like, you are blowing my mind right now. I didn't know that.
But ticks, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the ticks are all gone.
You might start finding some in the spring, though. That's what kind of sucks. You go out looking for sheds. Usually we haven't.
We don't have too bad of luck there.
Unless you get a really, like, if you go out and it's like the first warm day of the year, and by warm I mean like 50s, then you might get some because they're coming out. But
it's turkey hunting that is going to get you. You got to watch out.
And because you're just crawling through tick paradise, so.
And I don't know what the best way to not have them on you is. I guess
you can do and spray whatever. I just go out there and brave it, and then when you get home, just check yourself.
I mean, it ruins your day. I remember a couple times last year, and then you see them crawling on you. They're crawling on your arms.
You
your
really
hands or
really
it's
don't like them. No, I kind of got used to them. I mean, I'm not a fan of them, but I'll just take them and throw them out the window.
I hate them. They're so bad.
Yeah, they're gross.
Oh, well. Well, yeah, they're not out now, and so when it's negative 15 out and you're working outside all day, I guess you just got to be thankful that you don't have to worry about ticks. Yeah. But like you said, shed hunting is going to be coming up a little bit here. So
it's like the next big push after spearing, pretty much.
Yeah, that's like the next thing for us.
Probably the weekend after spearing, we'll probably be out looking.
Probably. It's always
March.
tough.
That first weekend of March is usually
that's
when
about right.
It's just, when we hit it.
It's always tough for us because, like, it's the end of January now, early February, even like the middle of January, they're going to start dropping. They're not all going to be dropped, but there's sheds to be found out there. And then it's just a question for us of, like, when do you go looking as far as, like, what's the snow situation?
Yeah.
What's the how many of them are still holding versus how many dropped? Because if they're still holding antlers, you don't want to, like, go traipsing through the woods and push a bunch of them away, and then they drop them on the neighbors. And
I think it also depends on the weather. Like, this year, they probably wouldn't have dropped so early just because, like you said before, it was a milder winter.
Yeah.
Like, this week, they're probably, if they haven't, they probably did.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, just because it's so harsh. And I don't know what the theory is behind that or why they get rid of it. I mean, like, everyone says when it gets cold, they just drop them, or, like, they're more...
well, I think the whole antler growing process is, like, hormone related. So I'm guessing when it gets cold, whichever hormone that is just plummets and they just drop them.
Oh, I also think it's something like that they need more their nutrients and food and stuff, like they have to put towards their surviving, so their horns don't need that or anything. So then they just. But we have found some luck. We have had some luck in January, one or two, kind of by coincidence, just walking through hunting and found a couple. But we're not out looking for them just because it's more. It also gives you something to do in the spring. It's nice out. I love it. I've said this many times. I tell them all the time. Shed season is my favorite.
Yeah.
You get out there. It's only 40 degrees, but the sun's out, so it feels like 60 because it's the spring sun is different than the winter sun. It's the best time ever. You're walking out, and you might even get down to a T-shirt at 45 degrees just because it's nice and it's hot. I will, but
you might.
I don't know. You might have
never
a park
doing
on
that,
still.
but I might. Bibs, the whole nine. Yeah, heated jacket. No, it is a good time, and it's if you're not ice fishing and if you're not sturgeon spearing, but like deer season gets done and then you roll into small game, and then small game is over at the end of February. That is the next thing in the natural progression to get yourself through the winter blues when there isn't like a ton of great stuff to go out and hunt. That's the next thing that's up, and it's kind of like that small game hunting where you're going to end up having to put on quite a few miles if you want to really have success. You're going to have to put the work in, but it can be really rewarding too to find those things.
I really enjoy that, and it's also a lot of scouting done because these bigger bucks or any bucks are kind of living in this area, and you get out and you get to see just more deer traffic in general because a lot of the trails are beaten down or where they're bedding and stuff like that.
Well, we talk about it. We've talked about it a couple times now, but the buck that you most recently killed, that is also the biggest you've killed. He's 155 inches. That's pretty good for almost anybody out there. That one, we found the sheds from the year prior, and the sheds that we found were probably 30 yards from the tree that you killed him out of, and probably 60 to 80 yards away from where he was bedding when you patterned him and killed him out of there. So like, it's not to say that if a deer drops a set of antlers that's going to happen every time, but we did also notice a pattern. So then the other that was one of the bigger bucks that you had on your property that year, probably the biggest one that year. Freak, at least one of his sides was right next to one of those sides from Blade Runner,
which is crazy because they literally dropped and like it's almost like they were fighting. But I don't think that would have happened. But they were like laying like this, right next to each other.
Because the one
maybe a little farther
Blade
away.
Runners and Freaks were like 10 yards apart. Because I remember walking through and we were trying to find, maybe 5. We were walking through and we were specifically trying to find those. I think we had maybe already found one side of one of them. Like,
we didn't find the Freaks' other side till like 2 weeks later when we went back.
Right. Did we already have one side of Blade Runners? I don't remember.
Maybe.
But I know they were obviously like our target antlers that we were trying to find. And I spotted one and I was like, dude, I found one. And then we started celebrating, and then like I was just locked in on that one. Then you started looking around. You found the other one like 10 yards apart, and one was from Blade Runner, one was from Freak, and those were the two biggest bucks you had on the property that year.
And I was just going through all the horns, like the sheds I have. I just have them in a basket in the living room.
Yep.
And I pulled them out, and I got like 6 matching sets in there that I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Because just on that one side of the property, which is weird because we only find them on like the one part of the property. Like it's split between a road, and we only find them on one side.
But that's another piece that you can kind of figure out within your property. Like, okay, so we have these two sides of the road. It doesn't mean that the other side of the road, like you killed Blade Runner, obviously on that side of the road that we're talking about. That same year, Terry killed his buck on the opposite side of the road. So it doesn't mean that it's off, but you know
seasons.
At least later in the season, they seem to only be on that one side. So that could tell you other things about, well, maybe there's just better thermal cover there than there is on the other side, or the food situation's a little bit better, or it's closer to a food source, or things like that. It's like if you kind of start putting the pieces together based on where you're finding and unfortunately, not finding sheds can tell you just as much as finding the sheds. Like you said, if you year after year you're just not finding sheds in a particular spot, doesn't mean that you can't kill deer there. Doesn't mean it's a bad spot to hunt. It just means that during that time of the year,
they don't winter
for whatever reason, they're not wintering there.
Or they just happen to not drop their sheds there. They could have been
right
100, 250 yards.
It could have been
any direction and dropped it. It's just how it is. But
right.
We've been fortunate enough to find quite a few, and I'm probably jinxing it this year. We probably won't find any, but that side of the road is notorious for deer wintering there.
Yeah. Well, this year's tough because you guys didn't necessarily have the age structure of bucks that you typically would have, because the year before, between bucks that you guys shot and bucks that the neighbors shot, there was quite a few 3 and 4 year olds that were killed.
And I think that if we do find some, we're going to find some that I had pictures of early, and we're going to be like, oh my God, I totally forgot about this deer.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome. There's a couple of them, 2 or 3 that for sure if we found, I'd be like, I'm so glad this deer made it, that I didn't hear of getting killed by the neighbors or anything like that. So that'd be sweet, which is kind of what happens. Like we walk up, I'm like, oh, I totally forgot this deer even existed.
Yeah. I mean, there's enough acreage there that I would be pretty upset if we didn't find couple of sheds there.
If we didn't find any, then I'd be like, oh,
especially from some 1.5 or 2.5.
And we have that other place we can go to, right? Pretty much right next to ours. So
and a lot of those matching sets that you have are from like some of those 2.5s or 1.5s. I don't know if there's anything with that. Like I know we talked a little bit in our shed video from last year, I think, or maybe we just had a conversation with ourselves about that, but they say, like, if one side drops, the other side should be within, like, 150, 200 yards, maybe, for, typically speaking, for, like, those bigger bucks.
And I think the reason is because it's uneven.
It's so unbalanced, right? Yeah.
So they want to get that other side off as soon as possible. 1.5, that don't really matter. They only got a couple little bit on their other side, so they can walk around forever with that. And theoretically speaking, we have found one match of 1.5. And it was a decent 1.5, like
decent 1.5.
That one that was like an 8-pointer, and I was like, oh wow, that's a good 1.5. But like
more 2.5s.
You're not gonna find a fork like this, like just a fork. Unless they dropped right next to each other. It's hard to match those up.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. They're hard to find to begin with.
Yeah, which is what happens. We start off with every year. I mean, last year I found one like this big to start off. The year before, you found a spike right away.
Yep.
It's like,
and you always wonder how many you missed too, because we were going through and we were messing around, chasing a chipmunk around through an old piece of broken down equipment. We were chasing him around, whatever, banging on the metal, trying to get him to run around, just kind of messing around, taking a little break. And there's a shed sitting like 15 yards off of that we ended up spotting, but easily could have walked right past. I walked right past it.
Yeah.
If you would have just looked the other way instead of looking down at it, we would have walked right past and never known.
And I think that's kind of what we've got better at, is we'll almost split it into like the piece that we shed hunt into like thirds and fourths almost. We'll come through, turn around, go back, come through, turn around, go back, and then we'll come back 2 or 3 more times throughout the year and just redo it, because you just need a fresh set of eyes. Because if you're just looking and looking, and then they get tired, you come back different day, you see something differently.
Yeah.
Bring other people with, and
you got to have a good process for doing it. You can't just wander. As much as that might be somewhat appealing, you kind of have to have a good methodical process going through. You don't want to walk too far apart where you end up missing stuff in between, but you also don't want to be walking in the same path and covering the same ground necessarily.
Yeah, I wouldn't, like, we'll stay pretty close and zigzag, and then come back. And like I said, we'll come back at least 1 or 2 more times, like in the next weekend or whatever, even the next day or something like that, or just hit it from turn around and hit the same spot you did, but just walk the opposite way back.
Yep.
And you're looking at different things. So. And
I feel like last year, we had those couple of bigger ones that were in the same spot there, that same area, and we kind of figured, okay, maybe they're bedding there a little bit. That's kind of like their wintering pattern. But there was a stretch on the property, kind of on that half that's closer to the road, where there was almost like a line, like a whole trail that we found them like kind of right along that, in that area there, that kind of was able to show us a little bit like, okay, this is clearly a line of movement that they're taking here this time of year.
And it's crazy because like 2 years ago when we started this, we found like 6 sheds all in that area, and then last year we only found a couple. So it's not like they're gonna drop it at the same spot every year, which I also hear like older bucks will do that. Like they'll come back to the area and drop them where they did the year before. I don't know how true that is, or
right.
But I mean, you get a 5-year-old or 6-year-old now, they'll probably do that, but.
And they don't move around as much to begin
that's
with,
true.
Too. So that's kind of the other thing. But yeah, we definitely, like, now that we've had a couple years in a row where there's more sheds in that area than there are in other areas, you definitely check those a little bit harder, because you've had success there in the past and you know that they should be there. But that's another thing with shed hunting. Like, you have to try and use it to your advantage. I mean, you could even go so far as to mark it on your map. Like, pretty much everybody nowadays has Onyx or Hunt Stand, or like Huntwise. Yeah, like there's or Seek One's new thing, Spartan Forge, is out. I haven't tried it, but I mean, I've heard good things about it. So like, almost everybody has some sort of mapping software out there now that you can mark stuff on. You could mark sheds on your map as you find them, and eventually over time you could start to see certain patterns that maybe even if you just were picking them up and paying attention, you wouldn't necessarily notice. But you can mark them on the map every time and then look back at it after the year and be like, oh, there's more of a pattern here than I thought. Whether it's in a certain type of tree cover that they're always dropping them in, or along a certain line of movement or something like that. You can really figure some stuff out. Yeah. And that can be good. It also can be kind of it's hard, because like that can also be kind of a myth, just like the coming back and dropping them, or the 150 or 200 yards to drop the other side. Like, a lot of these are like sort of like general kind of good rules of thumb, but it's not like
it's
you
not set in stone.
No, you shouldn't avoid the north half of a lot of those hills just because they say like south facing. So like, it's good because the thought process behind that is, if you're in the northern hemisphere, the sun is on the equator, right? So it's going to be further south if you're in the northern hemisphere. So more often than not, like, if deer are trying to bed down in the winter and stay warm, they want to be in the sun. And so if you have a slope, that sun is going to be more on the south side than it is on the north side. So they're going to be bedding more on the south side. And if they're bedding there, you're more likely to find the sheds there. But that's just not always the case.
If they dropped them there, plus the snow's going to be melted first.
Right.
That's why we check them first too, because snow's gone. It's easier to look.
Right. But then, sometimes where the snow lasts the longest is where there's the best thermal cover, and then sometimes that's where they want to be bedding the most. Like, we usually see in the one spot that we check, where there's a lot of pine trees and there is, more of that rolling terrain, the snow stays in there the longest.
Forever.
It just stays in there forever, which means there's just like the most insulation in there, right? So then it's like, well, if I was a deer, that's probably where I would want to be bedding down. The wind's not hitting it, and so that can be kind of tough too. as far as shed hunting that.
Even 2 years ago when we found Freaks other side, that was like 3 weeks after we were out there.
Yeah.
And it was in the pretty north part.
Yeah.
Really thick pines, so it just kind of goes to show.
I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing ever to like take some of these rules of thumb and kind of, go through them like that. But like I said, like south-facing slope, that could be great for you, but also like don't avoid the north side or whatever.
Yeah, no, definitely check both sides, but maybe start off with the south-facing just because the sun,
the snow's melted, and yeah.
You never know. I mean, deer, they're going to want to be warm. They're not stupid.
Right. And you got to know your own property too.
Yeah.
Like maybe, there's certain areas that deer are bedding in. That's probably a good spot to check. Or people who have food sources that are hit by deer late into the season when they might be dropping sheds. You're going to want to check those quite a bit. I mean, there's people who will leave 5-10 acres of standing corn and walk through those and pick up 20 sheds because they're just
spending
in there.
All their time
they're
there.
Spending all their time in there. They just knock their antlers off on the corn stalk quick and call it good.
And who knows? We might not find any, like I said, but some years they just might not shed on your property. It's just kind of how it goes.
It is.
I know my uncle's found lots before, and he's also found none. It's just kind of like, well,
yeah.
But it's not like your property's bad. It's just They just didn't drop them there.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at all the rules of thumb that you want to, but ultimately you can't beat just putting miles on. Like, just go and put miles on. It's the same thing with small game hunting. And it's kind of like what we talked about last week with Colby and finding success on public ground. Like, there's just no substitute for going out, putting miles on, putting the time in. Usually that's when you're going to end up getting rewarded with that kind of stuff.
Yep, I agree. Like, even we've walked our property how many times, like, it doesn't get boring.
No.
Like, every year is a new something. Oh, you find something, these bucks have been hitting this rub line a lot more, or you see a pattern of a rub line, or just stuff like that.
And if you really want to get better and be more successful, that's the key. Like, don't just walk to walk, and don't just find sheds to find sheds. Learn something from it. Even if you don't mark it on the map, you do something really interesting. You write the date in Sharpie that you found it on each shed. And I mean, that's every year I make fun of you for it. And then the following year or anytime throughout the year, I'll usually ask you, when did we find that? And right away because you wrote it on there. Now, you don't have to, right? If you took a picture of it, it would be in your phone on that day. Or you could keep a list in a notebook somewhere in a drawer that says,
right on the, I know a lot of people write on the bases, but
right.
Honestly, the Sharpie comes off. There's already someone that I have that already coming off, so it's not like it wrecks the horns.
Right. And if you put it in the right spot and it's not
put on the backside, it's just kind of cool too. Like, and you're like, oh, this day, or like if I took all of them and dumped them out, I'd be able to find the time that is when we find the most, which is that early March.
Yeah.
Find tons of them then.
And that's the key.
If the weather's good.
Yeah. If you can put patterns like that together, that's how you kill deer, is by figuring out patterns and making sense of it and making sense of how you can use those patterns to your advantage. So the more data you can gather, and not to make it like a nerdy thing, right? It's like you're walking through the woods, you find a shed, you mark the spot on the map, keep track of what day you found it on.
Yeah.
And then over time, throughout the year, and then throughout the next couple of years, you can look back on all of that stuff and go, okay, well, this is where we tend to see the most sheds. This is when we tend to find the most. This is what it means, and this is how I can use it to kill more deer. Like,
it's
that's
almost like
key.
a mental note too. Like, I could probably walk you through the property. If we all went out there, I could be like, oh, there's this. We found a shed right here, here, by this tree, in this area, and I can get pretty close just because I remember you remember those things.
Right.
You could go out there too and be like, wow, we found sheds right here, right here, right here. Just
Yeah, and it's the same thing with public land too. People every year will go out and walk public land and try and find those sheds. I mean, that's a lot more like pressured. It's hard to say pressured as far as shed hunting goes because the sheds don't run away. But obviously, if there's more people searching for them, more people finding them, and harder for you to be the one to find them then. And it's tough because do you go out early to try and beat all the other people out there? Well, if you go mid-January, you might be the first one to look for sheds, but a lot of deer are probably still holding.
Yeah.
So
and there's snow, and it's just
right.
And you could go February, but for us that doesn't work. We're spearing.
We're spearing.
So, but if you have the time to and you don't spear, that'd be great. A lot of people I know find a lot of sheds at that time.
Yeah, you just got to keep putting the miles on and keep looking. But public land too, that can be a great way to figure out where deer are on public land when it's not hunting season and when it's not summertime, because that can be a good thing to kind of compare too. Like we said, we can figure out where all the deer are or where a lot of the bucks are in the winter by finding sheds and looking for sign and things like that, and then compare that with some of your summer scouting and find out how things are different and how their patterns change and all that stuff. It's like if you really love deer hunting, none of that stuff should be boring to you.
No, or it shouldn't feel like a burden. Like,
no.
Oh, I have to. It's like, no, we get to.
Right, and it's fun. And we want to.
You get off of a long week of work, and we're just pumped to go out there and look for sheds on a nice, warm, nice sunny day. It's just awesome.
Stop at Quick Trip, get some snacks.
Mm-hmm. Do the same thing every year, and it doesn't get boring whatsoever.
No, it's the best. Yeah, I love it. And our property that we hunt at typically doesn't have much for sheds, but we also, like this year, we kept our trail cameras out the whole year, which probably was stupid. But we did it, and it wasn't even intentional. But yeah, I got a picture of a deer today actually, and I was looking at him like, "What? Are you lost? You're not supposed to be here till like April," because that's usually what happens. That's a pattern that we have figured out, is that on our property, on like the end of November, after the gun deer season, the deer are off of there. It's not that they're nocturnal. They are not setting foot on that property. They run for the hills, and they don't come back to that property until like April. So, and this year's been no different. We've had cameras up year round. They still got batteries. I just got a picture today. We haven't been there since November, and they're still going, still in -15 out there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're still running and sending pictures, and we had a little buck that was running through, and we get pictures more of like coyotes and things like
little
that.
Buck today?
Little buck today.
He's got horns.
I'm talking about a little one.
He still got horns.
Like, it could have been ears. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it was little spikes.
Yeah, we got a couple of them. Nels.
Yeah. You could probably tag it as a doe.
Not even legal.
Yeah. You could probably tag it as a doe still. But, I mean, you see deer like that, it's like, okay, well, I guess maybe there's hope, because usually we don't see any deer.
I think this year we'll hit a couple different spots for public. We have some, just for you got a spot we could go. I might try to meet up with Eli and Kobe somewhere, or have them come with us type thing. Yeah,
I would road trip it over to theirs. I mean, they've said they never really find a lot of sheds where they hunt, but they've also said they don't usually look that hard. It's more like if they're out doing work on the property, they look around a little bit and see what they can see. But I don't know if they've ever really like dedicated a Saturday to going out and shed hunting or anything. But yeah, it's a good time. It's another thing like rabbit hunting. It can be social. You go out, you're not worried about wearing camouflage, you're not worried about making too much racket. Usually you just kind of go out and
have fun,
pass the time, have fun. Better yet, you could go 2 for 1, bring your 22, oh no, you can't. Well, it depends on when you go. If you're going in February and the season's still open, then you could combine them and hunt small game and shed hunt. But obviously if the season's not open, then can't do that.
Just focus on the sheds then. It's more.
Yeah,
it's definitely more worth it. You see a lot more things if you're not trying to kill other things.
Well, it's hard for you to go into the woods without a gun. That's the problem.
Very hard for me too.
Yeah. Oh. That's the problem. If you don't shoot something at the end, I'm always worried you're gonna shoot me.
Well, it's like, what are we doing?
You got to shoot something.
Yeah.
Shoot a pigeon.
Rare I don't leave there without shooting something. Or at least shooting at something.
Shoot at a tree just to blow off some steam, But
all good. All good times.
All good times.
Looking forward to it. Kind of got some events. I mean, it's kind of low. Now I got some stuff to look forward to. So.
Yeah. What do we got? 2 weeks till sturgeon spearing? Yeah.
Must be less than 2.
Week and a half.
Yeah. 10th, 11th, and 12th.
I think the 11th is opening day.
11th and 12th. Super Bowl Sunday.
Is it?
Yeah. The 12th.
I'm not spearing then.
Yeah, game's not till 7. Spearing's done at 6 or 1. Yeah, you won't be able to make it.
Not gonna make it. Got to get ready for the game that the Packers aren't even playing then. But
I'm gonna spear a 200-pounder, and I'm not even gonna be able to watch the game.
Has anybody even speared a 200-pounder ever?
No, they tag some though, or they tagged like females. I think that are will be well over.
Really?
Pretty sure.
I'll probably get one this year.
They speared a 178 last year.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's huge.
That is gigantic.
So
the picture is just.
Yeah. I'll probably spear one. I speared one last year. My first year was an off year for me.
Yeah. So I don't even want to talk to you.
I saw 2 or 3. Took 2.
You saw 4
kind of half shots that didn't really count. I think it was 3 during the season.
Yeah. You saw 3. You watched 2 get speared.
Yeah.
Really rough.
Right.
Really
so
rough.
that was an off year. That sucked. And then this past year I
People
got one.
Hate you for saying this.
I know.
I hate you for saying this.
I know. That's why I said it. No, it'll be a good time though. It's always fun to just go back to Wentz and all the spots.
Yeah.
And
just see everybody.
The fish that are hanging up and
we'll see the Hunting Public boys.
Stuff. But they'll be there.
Hopefully.
They'll be there. They're there every year. Yeah. So it'll be a good time. It's coming up soon. I think we'll have one episode before that starts, and then we'll be back in there.
Hopefully I have a story for you.
Yeah, hopefully sturgeon shack video coming out Monday. Anything else?
No, I think that's it for right now for on the agenda.
Yeah, that's it. Gonna keep trying to get guests on here. I know last week was good. Getting Colby on. He's gonna come on a couple more times. Whenever we can get him on. We got some other guests we talked about getting lined up. So we're gonna continue trying to make it interesting for you guys. Try and get as many people on here as we can. Share different perspectives, different stories. And there's a lot of people who know a lot more about a lot of things than we do. I think that's a good way to put it. There's other people who know a lot more about a lot of things. So we'll try and keep pursuing that. But so far we've been good getting an episode out every week. I'm going to keep trying to stick to that. We've been able to do it and, keep trying to make this thing happen. So yeah, I think that's going to do it. That'll wrap up episode number 5. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you're watching this video on YouTube. Maybe leave us a comment. Let us know where all the good sturgeon spearing spots are going to be.
Drop us a pin.
Give us some GPS coordinates. We're going to be looking for you. Yeah. No, it's all good. Leave us a comment. Rate the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You guys know the drill. All that good stuff. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.